Listeners and viewers, please welcome the host of my guest at this time, Jose Gonzalez.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special Halloween episode of my guest at this time, Jose Gonzalez here. It's Halloween Havoc season. Clearly I'm in the mood. I got arrested at the Short and Sweet tour. You know, apparently I was a Juno guy. There was a Jose from New York at one of those shows. If you know, you know. So sorry they're not fuzzy. That's all Amazon had. But I mean, in the spirit of not only being such a kick-ass month of shows, we have so much to celebrate. I figured why not kick back, relax, enjoy a nice libation with none other than the queen of your favorite wrestlers' merch. I mean, she has drinkware, she has shirts, she is an incredible host of Wrestling Winedown. Give it up for Lo, everybody. Lo, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. It has been a long day. I'm ready to enjoy a lovely little bit of Moscato and some drinkware as well.
I know that's right.
You know, we got to plug everything here. I know Shop Jose in the Air has you covered. I know WWD Cast on Twitter has you covered with everything. You know, because we love bad bitch merchandise. What can I say? I mean, if there's one thing that NXT has going on right now, there's a lot of bad bitchery across the whole roster.
You know what? There is male and female. They are all over the place. They're making it known.
I know they rebranded. We're like in this new area, got so many hot signings. You have so many stars that have been there really starting to show out. It's been really fun to see this whole like Chef Shawn Michaels thing where he's really been cooking over the last few months. But I mean, for real, NXT feels like it's back in a great place. It's like something I really look forward to watching every week because you never know what the hell's going to happen. And I love that in my wrestling.
I agree. I think that Shawn Michaels has done a really good job. And, you know, we're seeing so many new faces just pop up all the time. And I think the inclusion of people from, you know, Raw and SmackDown coming over and kind of doing their little, you know, guest appearances, I also like that as well. So it's fun and interesting to watch.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, we still have that partnership with TNA as well, too. I mean, this weekend we have some NXT representation at TNA Bound for Glory, so who knows if that's going to make its way over to the CW. But I mean, it's been such a crazy year because you feel like NXT has kind of become like the forbidden door for like the WWE canon because you really do have endless possibilities of who can show up, whether they're new talent being signed, whether it's on a different brand, whether it's a different company. You really never know. But what I do know is this is looking like it's going to be really good Halloween Havoc. I know last year was a whole like 2-night event. We had like one night where there were like 4 or 5 different women's matches. Sadly, it's a PLE this year, so it's a more condensed card to one night. But I mean, for what we have, I'm still very excited. So what do you say? We get into some predictions?
We shall.
All right. I mean, fresh off the top, I mean, if we're talking about bad bitchery, the two that have been running the show as of late has been Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. We have them in tag team action going against the returning Cora Jade and your NXT Women's Champion, Roxanne Perez, who's been on such a tear this reign. I mean, I can't imagine just how much further we can go with this because it seems like every time you think that Roxanne's like overcome the next obstacle, there's someone new coming in. It feels like she's really been the standard bearer in NXT as far as the women's division goes. I'm excited to see how this is going to end because who really knows when it's going to end because you have so many different contenders that are eventually have to face off of each other before they even get to her. And now having that X factor in the returning Cora Jade, I mean, who's to say what can happen with this reign? But this tag team match is probably going to be something special. Lo, what are you thinking?
I agree with you. I mean, having Stephanie and Julia in a tag team just off the bat is incredible. We think of their journey in professional wrestling and how they got to WWE. And I mean, even with Roxanne and Cora as well, they've all had such interesting journeys that have almost been parallel to each other, right? Like they've been across the country, they've done all these accomplishments, they've been able to just make a name for themselves, and now they're all under the NXT umbrella. And, you know, like you said, I think Roxanne has had an amazing reign. We've seen that she's been able to compete not only with NXT talent, but also the TNA partnership. You know, I still think about the match that she had with Jordan Grace, and she has really proven herself. And, you know, now being in this tag team with Cora Jade and going up against, you know, international wrestlers and Stephanie Vaquer and Julia, I mean, this is really her time to shine. I mean, she's been shining all along, but this is her time to shine as a tag team. Now, I'm interested to see how her and Cora Jade work together. I don't know if I trust Cora like that. I feel like at the end of the day, Cora wants an opportunity. Every woman in this match is looking for an opportunity. No one has been able to beat Roxanne. And I'm sure all of these women in the back of their mind are thinking, how can I get a title match?
I mean, you also think about the fact that just it's crazy you stand and deliver that awesome match she had with Lyra Valkyria to win the title again. You go from there to having banger after banger, regardless of who was in the ring with her. We saw that triple threat at Spring Break-In. We saw the match with Jordan at Battleground. We saw the match with Lola Vice. We saw the match in Chicago for the CW premiere against Julia. But it's funny that you also mentioned those parallels on both sides, because you have a team like Cora and Roxanne who very heavily influenced by AJ Lee getting into the business. Obviously, Cora from the Midwest scene, Roxanne from the Texas scene. Very young, hungry talent. Came to NXT within maybe 6 months to a year of each other. Had different paths. Roxanne was doing a lot of stuff with Ring of Honor at the time. She dipped her toe in TNA to drop the title to Deonna Purrazzo at the time. Whereas you have Stephanie, Vaquer, and Julia. You have Stephanie that made her way over from Chile to Mexico, really made a name for herself there, got to do the stuff in Japan. I mean, we got to see her actually defeat Julia at the beginning of this year for that New Japan Strong Women's title before she made her way to the Forbidden Door event, dropping into Mercedes Moné, and had just probably one of the matches of the night. I mean, there's a whole contractual clause that's under development because of how quickly WWE snapped her up, because they knew. And I said, I would too. If you had a chance to sign one of the hottest talents in the world, and the fact that you can say that about multiple talents and every single one of them is valid, oh my God, I'd throw anything they wanted at that. And then you see Julia, who had such an incredible time in Stardom. We got to see her really show out over the years. We got to see her hair versus title stuff. We got to see her do so many crazy things. I mean, her on her way out of Japan, having that 60-minute gauntlet match in Marigold. I mean, Julia is really someone that we're getting to kind of see a lot more in the Western side of things. But if you go back through like Stardom World, there's really so much that she's done in Japan that I'm excited for this. It's a good clash of styles because you've gotten to see Roxanne really step up her game with those different opponents. She's able to get a lot more physical. She could be a lot more technical. She could do the lucha stuff. I think the X factor is honestly going to be Cora, because this is her first match back after that knee injury, that second knee injury. She barely had any time in the ring before she re-injured it previously. I'm hoping that everything's okay now. I know it's going to be a very anticipated match. Who are you thinking is going to walk out of this one with the W?
I think it has to be Stephanie and Julia. I don't see them losing for some reason. I think while Roxanne is a strong champion and a strong competitor, she is in a tag team. And I think the way to have her lose at this point is in a tag team capacity, because I don't think they want her to lose in a singles capacity. I think they want the story to continue on, right? Whether it's with Stephanie, whether it's with Julia, I don't think they want it to be a one and done. Now, we've seen Roxanne and Julia go up against each other, but I think there's obviously it's still lingering, right? Like, that's not going to be the only match that they have one-on-one. But I think that it would just make sense to have Stephanie and Julia win this one, because I could just see the online discourse of, you have these women come over from their respective countries and their respective brands and have them come to NXT and they lose their match. I don't see it going over well.
True. I mean, you also got to think about the fact that they've really tried to protect Julia, taking a couple finishers and outside interference to beat her, to kind of set up where we are now. I mean, there's two questions I ask of this is going to be, do we see Roxanne and Cora really on the same page? Because, I mean, they were once NXT Women's Tag Team Champions all those years ago for a hot second before Cora dropped the title into the trash, a la Medusa. But, I mean, it's if they've mended that bridge, and also, is Cora going to be the one to take the pin?
Which I feel like that's also not the best look, because you want someone that's returning from an injury to look strong, and having her take the pin, it's almost like, ooh, was she ready to come back? Like, are we sure about this? So I don't even know who would take the pin. I would think it wouldn't be Roxanne, but stranger things have happened.
So here's my theory. I do agree that I think Julia and Stephanie are going to end up getting the win on this one. But I feel like if anything, it's going to be where Cora tries to break up the pin and she gets taken out by the other person. I think Stephanie is going to probably pin Roxanne, which plants the seeds on both sides, because you think about the fact that Stephanie got the pin on Roxanne that Julia couldn't. And you also have Cora that couldn't save Roxanne from getting pinned. And you think about next month, we still have NXT Deadline. it's making for a pretty spicy potential fatal 4-way to close out the year.
That is true. That is true.
Just a little bit of seasoning getting added to the pot. We'll see what Shawn Michaels cooks up. You never know, but I think, yeah, definitely safe to say that it seems like it's going to be Stephanie and Julia walking out with the victory on this one. God, I really hope they open the show too, because I feel like that's going to be definitely a way to get the crowd nice and hot, because it's going to be such an intense show of like all these different stipulations, and be nice to kind of have a regular match just to get everybody riled up on just the wrestling, and then you could throw all the fun spots and everything.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, not to be outdone with just the intensity that we've seen in the ring, we've also seen not the dissolution of Chase University, but the dissection of Chase University, with one Ridge Holland really making his presence known, taking out Duke Hudson, taking out Riley Osborne, taking out Andre Chase, who then came back, laid out the challenge, an ambulance match. We have not seen one in NXT. We haven't seen one in main roster in a couple of years.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I haven't seen an ambulance match in forever.
Yeah, and it really does feel like it fits the whole theme of Halloween Havoc, because they have like the spin the wheel, make the deal thing, very raw roulette tease, but like it feels like this is a feud that truly warrants an ambulance match, because if you're going to have people getting stretchered out week after week on TV, what better way to get your lick back after not only getting screwed out of your tag team championship with someone that you took in who was seen as a liability in the ring, not only by opponents, but by his own tag team at the time. Because you think about it, the Brawl and Bruise, they left him. I mean, everybody's been giving Ridge Holland a lot of heat for that unfortunate injury that happened with Big E all those years ago, who's still out of action now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So kind of working that into the storyline where he's trying to get his redemption. It seems like he did get it. And then turns out he's still the same old scumbag that he was before. I feel like this one, it has to be Andre Chase getting the win. I don't know if we can have just everybody wiped out at Chase U and then just leave poor little Thea Hale to her own vices and see what happens with that, because we've already been there before where Chase U's been like on heaven's doorstep, and it's kind of what's going to bring it back. So I'm thinking
you can't have a university with one person.
Yeah, I mean, if the check clears, why not? I mean, that's probably what they'd say in the institutions anyway. But I mean, I feel like we might see Duke Hudson come back in this one. We might see Riley Osborne make their presence known. I'll be damned if Thea Hale isn't trying to swing something at Ridge Holland in this match. But I mean, that's kind of where my mindset is with this. Lo, what are you thinking?
I feel like the same as you. I mean, it would not make sense for Andre Chase to lose. All his teammates, all his little university friends have been wiped out. Why would they have him lose this match? And again, kind of back to what we were saying with Cora Jade, like you have people coming back who have been injured, whether that's in kayfabe or whether that's real. It wouldn't make sense to have him lose, because what's next? Okay, Ridge Holland wins. What is he on? Is he going to dissolve the university? Like, it wouldn't make sense at that point. And then, like you said, you only have Thea left. So, I mean, homegirl looked like she can fight, but I don't think she can fight him.
Right. I mean, it's only a matter of time. I feel like if she had to get bucked, she definitely would. It probably
I think she would. I definitely think she hold her own, but I don't think she would, pick up the W in the end. But like you said, I think Ridge Holland, when you kind of think about it, he almost has like this negative taste to him now, just because of all the unfortunate things that have happened. I remember specifically when the incident happened in NXT where he had injured somebody and he had kind of said, I'm done, I'm retiring. And then it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, he's back. And I'm like, what happened here? Like,
yeah,
I was like, what happened? Did I miss a chapter, a story? What's going on? But I feel like since all of that has happened, it's been really hard for the fans to connect with him fully. I think a lot of people hold almost like a bit of animosity towards him. And I think it's kind of transitioned over into this storyline. But again, I personally think Andre Chase is going to win. But also at the same time, where do you go after this with something? Like, is Ridge Holland just going to enroll into the university? Is he going to drop out? Like, what are we doing?
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Chase U regardless of the outcome of this match, because maybe this could be something where he realizes that maybe there's a lot more harm than good that's going on with the university for them to close doors and finally go their separate ways to see kind of what happens there, whether or not they stay united in some form, or if it's just we really get to see different ventures. Because you think about someone like a Duke Hudson who's been in NXT in kind of a few different roles. Feels like if he's given the right thing to go, like in the North American title scene especially, he's ready for it. We saw that match he had with Obafemi. Feels like it's just kind of an opportunity waiting to happen. Thea's gotten to show out in the women's division, having great matches with Roxanne. I mean, it feels like everybody in Chase U is ready for the next step, whether it's going to be as a stable or if it's going to be in singles competition remains to be seen. But
Yeah.
yeah, it feels like the ambulance match is going to be a little bit more emotional than physical, but I mean, who's to say? Now, onto
We'll see
something.
who goes to a
Ooh.
local medical facility. You know, they don't
Oh
say
yeah,
often.
the local medical facility. Who knows? They might have Michael Cole talk about some of the symptoms going on again. If you know, you know. Yeah, but I mean, on to a match that truly it's setting up to be as unpredictable as possible. I mean, mainly because we don't know the participant and we don't know the stipulation. We have for the NXT Women's North American Championship, Kalani Jordan defending against a mystery member of Fatal Influence. So we don't know if it's going to be JC Jane. We don't know if it's going to be Fallon Henley. We don't know if it's going to be Jasmine Nix. We know it's not going to be Jasmine Nix. I mean, I'm just, you know, I feel like if anything, especially now that we know that they had the Spinner's Choice match, it feels the most obvious to say it's going to be a 3-on-1 handicap match. I would be genuinely surprised if it's anything but. If it's a singles match, I feel like it might go to JC, and there's definitely going to be like some sort of no DQ element so everybody can be out there to also whoop on Kalani. But I don't know if this is how Kalani's reign ends. I feel like if anything, even though the odds are stacked against her, I feel like there's going to be people there to even the odds. Because you think about all the different people that have been wronged by Fatal Influence. I could see a Sol Ruka coming out to help her. I could see a Tatum Paxley coming out to help her if she's not preoccupied with what's going on with Wendy Chu. I don't know. I feel like there's so many things that can help Kalani even the odds. I'm thinking and still North American champion Kalani Jordan. Well, what are you thinking?
I think so too. I think this is a time for Kalani to again prove herself as a talent. I think that ever since she's won that title, people have had shit to talk. They've said, "Oh, she wasn't ready for it. Oh, she needs to improve in the ring." And every single time she has a match, she's shown that she is capable, she's talented. You know, she can hold that title. She can hold it. You know what I mean? And I think this is an opportunity, especially with a 3-on-1, like we think may happen. And even if she does have one single competitor, how do you prepare for something like that? You know what I mean? You have to know who you're typically facing in order to get ready for the match. So I think either way you look at it, whether she's going 3-on-1 or whether she's going 1-on-1, like she mentally had to prepare for something that she was obviously not prepared for to begin with. But I also think it shows how she is as a champion. A champion has to be able to adapt to their surroundings, whoever comes at them, you know what I mean? So I think that she's going to win. I could see people getting involved, you know, that have been wronged by Fatal Influence, but at the same time, I could also see her kind of handling it herself. And then people kind of being like, huh, I was wrong about her. Instead of thinking, oh, well, she wasn't ready. I think she has really done an amazing job as well. I've kind of been watching her on social media. She has really done a good job at connecting with the fans. I think that also is a huge deal in professional wrestling. Like she's been able to, you know, be on TikTok and stuff like that. And I know some people aren't really into that, but it really does play a role in these wrestlers. If you are marketable, if you're able to connect with the fans are going to get behind you. So I think the fact that she's kind of adding that in as well to her character outside of the ring, I think will also connect her to the fans. And hopefully people will stop talking shit because I like me some Kaylani Jordan.
Oh gosh, I do too. I feel like this reign's been really refreshing to see kind of what she was gonna make of it because, I mean, when we had that ladder match, I wouldn't say that Kalani was my first choice to win the match. I didn't think
She
there were really
wasn't,
bad
no.
options. I was thinking along the lines of maybe a Lash Legend, maybe a Michin. But
Yep.
I mean, you think about the talent that was in that match, anybody could have won. They would have been a great
Mhm.
first champion. And then you have her double down on that, seeing the match she had with Michin at NXT for that first defense. The match at Heatwave with Sol Ruka is a match of the year contender any way you look
Mhm.
at it. And it's crazy to see how people have been shitting on that, but when Will Ospreay and Ricochet are doing it on Dynamite, they're eating it up. I mean,
Period.
that's y'all's problem. I know me. I like me wrestling wherever it is, and that was some good graps.
Mhm.
So I'm excited for this one. I'm really wondering what the stipulation's gonna be. What do you think it's gonna be?
I really think it's gonna be a handicap. I don't know why, but it just seems like they would do something like that
Yeah.
to
I
just
feel
take
like the
her
way
fully out.
the way they're setting it up, I would be genuinely surprised if it's not, but I don't know because what
Or
else
no
can you
DQ,
do?
like you said, no
Yeah.
DQ. So you have someone go one-on-one, but they're still involved anyway. And you think about the weapons that could be used, it's gonna be something sly. I'll say that.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe last woman standing, maybe not quit. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe they do something
good
very
one.
campy. It's like Kalani can't go on the top rope or like you never know. It's
You think
fatal
they're gonna have
influence.
a petty clause like that?
I mean, I would be so refreshing if they did. Because I mean, if you're gonna have a Mean Girl stable, I would love to see some petty stuff as a stipulation. Be like, you have to have one arm tied behind your back. Like, give us like the Lita Mickey James like build up to Survivor Series with all these bullshit stipulations. Your legs are shackled. You got a blindfold on.
Work with it.
Yeah, gosh. Oh well, it's gonna be entertaining one way or another. I'm excited for it. I mean, this has not been officially added to the card, but it would not be me if I didn't speculate because there's been a lot of build on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. This is probably the best state that the WWE Women's Tag Team Division has been in since 2020. I mean, you have so many credible contenders. I mean, in programs right now, and then you still have other tag teams on the wayside because you have a Fatal Influence, you have Life of the Party, you have the people that are currently we're seeing on TV. It feels like there could be a special Fatal Four Way coming up. I mean, I personally would love to see it, especially if we have like a Bianca and Jade versus Chelsea and Piper versus Damage Control versus the Meta Girls. I really hope we get this match announced on SmackDown. This is being aired before SmackDown. Obviously, when you guys see it, it'll be before SmackDown because it'll go up Friday morning. We've gotten to see Lash and Jakara go to SmackDown. They got really screwed out of their title
Oof.
match the first time. I'm still kind of hot about that because
Kind of.
it
I've
feels.
been hot. I'm still hot.
I'm just saying, not when they did that the next segment over and it so and made exactly the same impact. Did it have to be during the historic match where we had two black teams competing for the women's tag titles for the first time? Especially when you have people making their debut from NXT and you have the parallels you do? Come on. And then, especially when Lash is showing up the next week against Piper like it's nothing. God, they are so ready for the main roster. The Meta Girls, or Metaphor as a whole, is ready for the main roster. It's a matter of when they do it or not. But I am going to fantasy book and say that we have the women's tag titles in a fatal four-way on Halloween Havoc with these four teams. Lo, assuming it does happen, whether it's going to be here, maybe it's at Crown Jewel, maybe it's just on regular TV. In this kind of scenario, who would you give the favor to?
Hmm. I love some Bianca and Jade. I really don't want them to lose the titles yet. I really don't. I think that first reign they had, it ended so abruptly. I was so irritated because
In
I
a
was like,
triple threat match,
why?
no less.
Yes. I was like, why did you end their title reign like that? Like, that's what I really wanted to see. Um, But Chelsea Green and Piper have this amazing chemistry. And I think that the way that they're able to not only work as a tag team, but work separately is amazing. I think Chelsea Green has great character work. She's been able to pop up everywhere. And she has that type of personality that makes you want to pay attention to her. She just knows how to command an audience. And I could see them doing really good as tag team champions, but I really don't want Jade and Bianca to, to lose yet.
I don't either, but I could see them dropping it, but I feel like they would have to drop it. I mean, any one of these teams would be the right choice, but I feel like
For
if they really
sure.
wanted to do it, I feel like if anything, it might go to Lash and Jakara just for not only the shock of it all, but you think about the
I
impact that
wouldn't
it
be
has.
mad. I wouldn't be mad at that. But I wish they would have gotten a longer match at first. Like I
Oh my god,
honestly wish
2
it would have
minutes in 2024. Do we
I
got to start a
wish
hashtag?
I wish it would have been Bianca Belair and Jade versus the Meta Girls, and I wish we would have gotten like a real feud. I understand why
Mhm.
they've kind of mixed in Chelsea and Piper and Damage Control. Great. But for me, I wanted to see both of them just have a nice detailed feud. Go into it. We know that Lash has a history of being an athlete. So does Bianca. So does Jade. They have so much that they could have played on, and now we're kind of like lost in the sauce. So I'm like, okay, did you guys not realize what you had when you originally booked it and that people were actually going to be entertained and enthralled by it? So now you're kind of like, okay, let's put other teams in there. We'll come back to it because that's almost what I'm thinking at this point. I wonder if they're going to come back to it around Mania time because they didn't realize what they had at first, which did you really not realize, or were you just not ready for that type of like notoriety?
See, this is another thing because maybe it's not a fatal four-way. What if it's tag team turmoil? It's a matter of who you have in the entry part.
Oh no.
Because you think about it, one way or another, one team is probably going to have to run the gauntlet. Whether or not
For
it's going
sure.
to be Bianca and Jade running the gauntlet, maybe have Damage Control running the gauntlet. Maybe have Lash and Jakar run the gauntlet to put them over as credible contenders, and maybe that's going to be like how we get to a call-up. I'm just saying, like, there's plenty of options.
Well,
Ooh.
it was either last week or earlier this week when Jakara and Lash were on one of the shows. They didn't have their NXT
No.
name badge anymore. I think it was SmackDown. They didn't
Yeah,
have their name
SmackDown, they
badge
just had the
anymore.
integrated SmackDown nameplates. So.
And everyone was like, did they get called up?
And I don't know, because the whole thing that's weird with me of Halloween Havoc is that there's been branding for the show without the NXT logo. It said WWE Halloween Havoc. So I feel like if they want to really play with that and have it as a WWE event, have a WWE title on the show.
That's true.
I don't know. I'm excited if it happens, when it happens. But also, I would be remiss to say if we don't pour one out for Samantha Irvin introducing Chelsea Green. Girl, we miss you. We hope that the music is good. Wherever you end up, they're lucky to have you. We love having Lillian back, but damn, in 3 years you had that impact. It's just like you don't realize what you got till it's gone. Damn it.
Truly.
I mean, blessings to Sam wherever she goes. Whenever we get this combination of these 8 women in some sort of tag title match, I'm going to eat it up. I'll go back for seconds and thirds. But I mean, we go from one match that has the potential to not only be booked, but to be amazing. We go to another match that's been very much a mental match because we go back to the St. Louis show where he won the title. We have a tables, ladders, and scares match for the North American Championship with Tony D'Angelo defending his title against Obafemi. But there's a caveat to this one. It's not a traditional TLC/TLS match. Asked for it, and in the midnight hour, literally, Ava granted it. It is one fall to a finish. So pinfall or submission is going to win this match. And it's going to be interesting to see how this goes because you have the fact that Oba's only real loss in NXT, especially by pinfall, was to Tony D. You also have Oba, who recently just took out Lucas Cutrafino on NXT with all these different ladders and everything. It's going to be a very emotional match. I'm sure Stack's going to try to get involved some way or another. Maybe Adriana Rizzo comes in, swings a chair. I don't know if Tony's going to hold on to the title, especially because you think when he had the Heritage Cup, he held that for maybe a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you don't have Oba get pinned twice in the span of 3 weeks. I just don't see it. I mean, Lo, what are you thinking?
First of all, I'm suing Tony D'Angelo because he was on NXT with his little wine glass. He did not approve that. That is gimmick infringement. So I'm already kind of looking at him a little bit sideways. But I do agree with you. I think that Oba has had such an impact in NXT. And to have him lose twice in 3 weeks, I think would be definitely a head scratcher. But also at the same time, I feel like Tony D has been grinding in NXT for a minute. And the fact that, like you said, he didn't hold the Heritage Cup for long, it makes you wonder, is this the time where he will hold the NXT North American Championship for a little bit longer than we anticipate? But at the same time, where does that leave Oba? And I know I'm asking this with damn near every match, but honestly, where does it leave these competitors that it doesn't really make sense for them to lose, but also at the same time, it does? Because again, Tony has done a great job in NXT. He's been in this faction. They've really been captivating. I love some Italian. Like,
Oh no,
okay.
I love mob shit. Yes.
Yes. But I really want Oba to win. I just feel like he has so much potential. Like when I watch him wrestle, I gotta just like pay attention because it's so amazing. And he's so young too. And I'm like, can you imagine where he will be at in a couple of years if he is just starting out really and he's doing all of this? Tony, I'm sorry. You might be losing your title.
So walk with me. I'm gonna hold your hand as I say this.
Okay.
I think they're gonna do some bullshit ass way to like stack a bunch of shit on top of Oba. You're gonna have ladder on top of chair. Then you have Tony on top of the pile, and that's gonna be what pins Oba for Tony to win. However, I don't think Oba's gonna stay in NXT. I don't think he's going after Trick Willie with that NXT championship.
I don't think so either.
I think he's gonna go to Monday Night Raw where the monsters are, because you got Braun Strowman who just went out on injury, but think about it. You got Bronson Reed, you got Braun Breaker. If there was ever a time for big meaty men to slap me, yo, shit. At least this is close to my complexion. This was closer to his, but great gowns, beautiful gowns. No, but for real, I feel like Obafemi is a call up waiting to happen because maybe you have him like come in as like the next hot thing. Maybe you have him feud with. Bring back Omos. Give us more.
You know what? I was just singing that. You read my mind because I'm like,
either
where
you
has
have
he
them go,
been?
Either they go against each other or you have them in the tag division. Because I feel like that's a tandem that would actually work and like maybe have Judgment Day. I don't know, defend the titles. Maybe like actually show up and show out.
That's a great idea.
Because I mean, you have two men that can go, and you also have just like straight up strength with like Omos being just a straight up powerhouse and a brute. Obafemi's also athletic AF too. So I mean, if you want a bouncy powerhouse, he could do that as well. I don't know. I'm gonna say and still North American champion Tony D by some hook or some crook. Because I mean, one way or another, the mob ain't known to do shit clean all the time. They always got something up their sleeve.
That is true. You know what? And maybe I'm a little bit petty, but like, we need some Italian influence somewhere in the match. Like, bring out some pasta. I don't know.
Hit him with a gabagool.
Just don't bring out the wine.
Yeah, no. Maybe it's an empty bottle. You never know.
Oh, maybe. I'll prove that one.
Yes. You know, it has to have the specific Wrestling Winedown branding on it. You know,
yes.
Get your royalties, have a lower rate, you know, all that stuff. But I mean, we have had so many different matches already. We have to have the main event. I mean, this is something that's been brewing since Heat Waves, since he first got to NXT. No better stipulation for this one than a Devil's Playground match. You have, for the third time in singles competition, in this case, for the NXT Championship, Trick Williams is going to defend the title against the former champion, All Ego, Ethan Page. And this really feels like it's been a fun feud to see because you have Ethan, who could really just talk shit like the best of them. He backs it up in the ring. Trick also charismatic as all hell. He's willing to do whatever it takes to win those championships, as we've seen. We saw him have a huge win again for that second time in Chicago with CM Punk as a special guest referee. He had his big crowning achievement against Carmelo Hayes before it too. It feels like, I don't know. I feel like you got to let Trick have a decent reign. I feel like the way that he lost the championship in that fatal 4-way heat wave was not only just like a huge shock to the system, but like it really felt like he got gypped. Really let this man cook, because I have some plans for what he can do with this reign, especially depending on what happens at Bound for Glory, because you never know. But my mind is thinking, and still NXT champion Trick Williams, and what's going to be a very entertaining match either way. Lo, what say you?
I want All Ego to win. You know, yes. I love Trick Williams too. I think he's incredible in the ring. He has so much charisma. And, I think in NXT, that's hard to find lately. Like someone that has just captivates the audience. Like once he got that theme song, exactly. Once he really got that theme song, it was a full circle moment. And ever since then, you could just tell that the audience connects with him. They believe in him. And like you said, he gets in that ring, he whoops ass. He doesn't talk and rap. He will get in there and he will show you business. But I think that Ethan Page at the same time is kind of doing the same thing. They got Ethan Page out here rapping. Did you see it? They got Ethan Page out here spitting bars, and not just one bar on the song, a bar, a chorus, and then another bar. He is dedicated, and you know, I've followed Ethan Page for a while now, and I've always seen that dedication. Even when he was in Ring of Honor, and it felt like he really wasn't going anywhere, you could tell he was still dedicated. So him moving over to this NXT roster and being able to come in and start challenging for the World Championship, winning it once, obviously he lost it, but still going after it and still keeping us entertained. Because for me, I don't know about you, but when people start having multiple matches, at some point I'm like, okay, that's enough. We've seen it already. But with these two, I feel like they've brought something new to the table each and every time that they faced off.
Absolutely.
And that's what has kept me so interested. But I still want Ethan Page to win. I think that Trick still has time left in NXT. I don't think it's too long because he really has proven himself. And I think he's ready for the main roster. But I think Ethan Page is somebody that you can build a brand around. I really do.
I mean, you talk about his come up and everything. I was very lucky to see him on the indies over here when he was still in TNA. So you talk about some that not only like did the hard work wherever he went, really transformed himself into the shape that he's in, the character growth that he's had, the in-ring work that he has. I mean, obviously him having his own promotion helps. Alpha One Wrestling out of the Ontario area. I mean, you're talking about someone that's kind of a chameleon. Wherever he goes, he can make something work, whether it's being in a tag team with Josh Alexander, whether it's climbing up the ranks in Ring of Honor and AEW, not really getting a chance to go that further echelon that he was due when he was in AEW.
Amen.
To see him break Kevin Owens' record from debut to winning the NXT championship in less than 2 months from his debut. They don't just hot shot that title to anybody. That man is a marquee man. So I don't know. I feel like Trick probably is still going to retain and finish out this run on a high. But if Ethan wins, I'm not mad at it because all I know is Trick only has one more to go, and that's up. So whether it's going to be in the Royal Rumble, whether it's going to be Raw after Mania, I feel like it ain't going to be too much longer until we're on Netflix or we're watching a PLE and we hear Whoop That Trick chants.
Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned TNA, and we know that Ethan and Josh Alexander have been in a tag team before. Do we anticipate seeing a Josh Alexander influence in this match, or do you think that's kind of down the road?
So here's my theory. I was thinking if Trick wins and if Joe Hendry wins the TNA World title the Saturday before, I feel like maybe a deadline you have a champion versus champion match. Not necessarily defending those titles, but you have a showcase. The best of TNA versus the best of NXT. Because we already had that title match before at No Mercy. And it was extremely entertaining. I mean, we talk about the fact that maybe we do have a reunion of the North in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you have a tag match with Josh Alexander teaming up with Ethan Page because Josh has been on a tear as a heel in his TNA run. Maybe do that and you have the two babyface champions really going after their two main threats, because it feels like if Joe Hendry wins, Josh Alexander is looming in the door for his next chance at the title. I don't feel like Nick Nemeth's going to be in the title picture much longer. Whether or not he's even going to be in TNA much longer, who knows? He could go back home to WWE.
What?
He has options. He was in New Japan. He was already global champion. He held the AAA Mega Championship.
Right.
We ain't going to talk about who he dropped the title to. But yeah, no, I feel like if anything, the anticipation of what could happen on the TNA side of things makes me even more excited for this, because it feels like we might see some more people crossing the line. Or
I hope so. It's made watching wrestling so fun because you really never know who is going to cross over that line. You get little bits and pieces and hints every once in a while, but when it actually happens, it's just so cool. And you think about like years ago, like this would have never happened. And now we're living in a time where you see so many quote unquote forbidden doors happening monthly, weekly. You know, it's so exciting.
Yeah, no, because it's crazy to think that I feel like a lot of this started back in 2022 when we got that Mickie James Royal Rumble appearance.
Oh, yeah.
God's champion with Hardcore Country.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I will say Mickie James threw the first brick at Stonewall anytime. And then when they finally put up the new window and everything too, you have Jordan Grace hitting it with a damn battering ram, doing the Royal Rumble, doing Battleground, defending a TNA championship on WWE television, which is something that no one would have ever thought could have happened.
If you would have told 10-year-old me that, I would have been like, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Because it was so unheard of.
Yeah, and I love the fact that when she was challenging Roxanne, that was a true surprise because everything leaks in wrestling these days. It feels like, aside from maybe Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae when they came back to Monday Night Raw, that was a true secret. When I tell you, I had to go back through timeline, like, what the hell are you talking about, Jordan Grace on NXT? And then I go back.
Gasped so loud.
I'm so pissed I missed that live because that would have been like the gag for real. God, I mean, I really hope that. Not to make this a TNA Bound for Glory thing, but I feel like low-key, whether it's going to be Jordan winning or retaining the title and then finishing out the year in TNA, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that woman is not in WWE come January 2025.
And you know what? Look at who she has around her in WWE, like Julia, Stephanie, the Meta Girls,
Zarya, aka Delta, who they had
that would be insane.
A humper at Mickie James Presents Her. So if y'all haven't seen that match, it's on YouTube. I mean, actually just got the whole show on Fight. It was $10. It is such a good pay-per-view. I mean, we got to see the coming out party for Delta, and that really was probably the catalyst that got her signed to NXT. I'm very excited to see what she does with this Zarya character because they're making her seem like a big deal. And on top of that, a big deal that doesn't necessarily have to go immediately for the main championship either. You let her just throw bitches around, let her maybe take the North American title off of Kalani Jordan. That would be a fun clash of styles because we haven't got to see Kalani in a David versus Goliath type match like that before.
Very true.
And maybe that could be the way that you maybe get Jordan Grace over. If you're going to have her go to NXT, have her go against a familiar foe, or honestly, I feel like she's due for the main roster. Let her and Naomi cook it up again on SmackDown.
Oh, yes.
Okay, we're getting sidetracked, but I mean, the short of it all is we're torn on this title match because obviously Lowe's thing, Ethan Page, I'm saying Trick Williams. We're both thinking about potential TNA stuff with this. All I know is it's going to be a good weekend for wrestling either way, because you talk about going from whatever they announce on SmackDown, if they announce anything on SmackDown for the women's tag titles, to having a Bound for Glory pay-per-view that looks like it's going to be phenomenal on Saturday night. And then Sunday we close it out with Halloween Havoc. Come on. You can't ask for much.
Trying to be a wrestling fan.
God, I mean, it's crazy to think that this month already had like, it's 4 different PLEs, seems like week after week after week. I'm kind of glad we're pumping the brakes a little bit in November because you got Thanksgiving and everything. Obviously, I mean, you have Full Gear, you have Survivor Series, you have Turning Point, but just like this has been like the month where it seems like another one. Thank you. Another one. Thank you.
Really,
which I'm not mad at because every show has been good.
So,
but yeah, no, I'm excited for this. It feels like the energy is palpable. Oh, God. Sunday night cannot come soon enough. But I am so excited with how this month has turned out on the channel. You guys have been awesome supporting every episode. I mean, we've had 4 different promotions technically covered in 4 different episodes. I've had tremendous guests making their debuts on the channel. Lo, you are awesome. I love what you do.
Thank you.
Whether it's hosting, whether it's like really trying to make some incredible wrestling merch for ladies or the queer community in wrestling that really just loves having some different representation other than text on a black tee, because you go above and beyond. You have it tailor made. You try to think about like what's something that I would have loved to see when I was growing up as merch, and then kind of doing it for this next generation. So, I mean, you got to give us the lowdown on Wrestling Winedown, if you will.
Yes, so we drop episodes bi-weekly, and then the weeks that we don't drop episodes, we drop collections. So you can keep up with us on Twitter and Instagram at WWDCAST. We are available wherever you stream your podcast, and the merch is on shop.wrestlingwinedownlv.com.
Guys, get you some wine glasses, get you a Bad Bitches shirt. I mean, keep an eye on Twitter for when they announce that they're going to be doing some custom Bad Bitches shirts, because really, nothing's really off the table unless it's going to get them sued. So be mindful of that. Yes. We're not trying to see any lawyers. We're not trying to see the F, the B, or the I, as Lacey Mosley says on Scam Goddess. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this one. Lo, thank you so much for spending your Wednesday night as we record this with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for being here for this one. Obviously, Jose on the Air everywhere. JoseOnTheAir.com, shop Jose ontheair.com. Just keep in touch with me. We have a lot of things going on. We still have that giveaway goal. If we get it to 1,000 followers on Twitter by the end of November, we're almost at 800 right now. So who's to say that we don't hit that pace? It's going to be a good giveaway. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not one to reveal my hand too soon. And also be on the lookout. If it's not up this Friday, there might be a little thing that I have getting published as far as an interview that's technically from an outside wrestling thing. So I'm just saying, keep your eyes peeled. But thank you all for being here for this one. It's been a whirlwind of an October. It's been a fun one, and I can't wait to see you guys in whatever we do on the next episode. So until then, take care, everybody.